So Tensura is going to be coming out later this week. There's a ton of characters coming from Awoken to Ascended, and I'm going to try to do my best to kind of gloss over all of them and kind of just tell you their strengths, the weaknesses, and just kind of tell you how good they are in the current day meta. So whenever you look at the first part, and I'm considering the first part everything but the Ascended characters, like the original Awoken units, there's a few standout characters here. For one, Human Form Rimuru is incredible. This guy has a cleanse on the art gauge on the true art, plus also stats up as well. He has 5 different Dream Awakenings he can pick from. The main one everyone uses though is of course the Water Dream. It busts up his equipment CT speed and it gives him 50 arts on a skill, which for an Awoken unit, that's kind of crazy. He's incredible. He's one of the best characters to get, especially if you're brand new to the game. Support is just invaluable. The other characters are still pretty solid, like Milim still has crazy deeps, and with her getting buffed now, she's just going to be even stronger. Not to mention she's one of the craziest reflect units in the entire game, so you could do a lot of cheesy stuff with that. Biddymaru, magic res down character, does some pretty good damage on his own and definitely can do a lot of work if you give him the right stage to do it on. New Year's Milim, specifically for nuking, there's a lot of times where you turn to this character because she gives that instant attack buff for like the first 40 seconds of a quest. She gives art gauge as well if you don't have like some other kind of art master character on the team. And her slots are pretty solid when it comes to just nuking specifically. The biggest plus about all of these characters that I just mentioned is the fact that they are all luck units. Every single one of these characters can be taken up to luck 120. That is incredible for anybody that needs to farm anything in this game, which guess what? Majority of the game is you farming stuff. What about the Ascended units now? And well, the Ascended characters is where it gets kind of crazy, ladies and gentlemen. We all know how crazy the original Demon Lord Rimuru is. He has ridiculous damage, he's insanely fast, and even nowadays, one of the strongest dark units and just one of the strongest units in the entire game. This guy is the main damage carry on Mono Dark Demon. Also, this guy is good in raid nuke compositions because of the massive amounts of damage. He has super crits too, so there's that. I guess like the only thing that kind of sucks with him is that he doesn't give more support to his team. Like he's just kind of a selfish, just hyper carry, but he's a really good hyper carry to where it kind of doesn't matter. The other unit that's really good from the original batch of Ascended characters is actually Diablo, and his buff is ridiculous. They pretty much took away his restriction. Like that whole restriction of he has to be above 90% HP to be able to arch gen. Well, now they lowered it to 80, but if you have his true weapon, it's now lowered even further to 50% or more HP, and he's able to arch gen for the left and right unit. And to me, I just feel like a lot of people sleep on this character. Or more so, there's like a split. There's some people who really acknowledge the value of Diablo, and there's other people just like, oh, he's kind of like whatever. To me, this character is goated. Like one of the strongest characters in the game. Like to me, this character is goated. Like easily one of the strongest S tier characters in the game. And now here we go getting into the new units. And these guys, we got some heavy hitters for sure. Now, Demon Lord Rimuru is pretty insane. He's also kind of like more of this hyper carry type character, I would say, but he actually has arch gen. He's kind of like the other Demon Lord Rimuru, except he's a bit more supporting actually. He's giving art gauge to his entire team if they're above 50% HP. He has max HP buff on his art alongside like a super arts damage buff, and he has a super art which scales its damage based on however many units are above 80% HP, which means if everyone on your team is above 80% HP, ladies and gentlemen, you have a 340,000% multiplier on that super art. Of course, one of the things you have to take note of here is that he has no source of crit chance, he has no source of defense ignore. That has to be provided to him, which really isn't that big of a deal. Considering that he is a dark demon, you could use him alongside Demon Lord Vox, and he's able to provide that crit rate buff. Or if you're using him outside of Mono Dark Demon, then you could use him alongside a character like Hoka, for an example, where he's able to really buff up crit damage and lower crit res. Of course, you'll mainly be seeing this guy in Mono Dark Demon, which is wild because Demon Lord Rimuru, to an extent, is trying to get power crept by himself. The other character from part 1, which is going to be Shuna, she's like this arch-genner, healer, res type character. The problem is that rezzing in this game kind of sucks unless like you can put a auto revive on a character to where whenever they die, they instantly revive. And reviving characters that are dead in GS isn't the greatest since a lot of missions require you not to die in the quest. And if you die and bring them back to life, it still counts as you dying in the quest. If it was just like complete the quest with all allies being alive, then that would allow units like this to shine a bit more. But because the missions and everything else in the game kind of don't allow this type of revive unit to exist, she is unfortunately not as good as she could be. She's still a pretty solid unit, but not nowhere near as good. And then for part 2, we have the man himself, Big Daddy Veldora. He comes off as a character that just doesn't seem like he does a lot, but then if you think about the team comps and the different ways that you could utilize this unit, it's like, damn, he might be onto something, you know? He's very self-sufficient. He gives himself 7 arc gauge for 60 seconds. It reminds me a lot of FM Haruto, the one we literally just got, where Haruto can pop his true art and then boom, he's getting like, what is it, like 5 arts for 120 seconds. It's very similar to that, where Veldora is going to be extremely self-sufficient as soon as he gets that art shit online. His true art is an attack buff while also buffing up Earth allies, paralysis and freeze res. A super art that's able to ignore defense and buff up human, dragons, and demon allies damage by 200%. This super art, the way how the animation is that he transforms into his dragon self. Well, this super art cannot be interrupted. No matter what happens, if he gets fainted, if he gets paralyzed, if he gets frozen, it does not matter. He cannot get interrupted during this, which I know may not sound like too crazy because it's like, oh, well, whenever you're forced to paralysis or something like that, usually the boss is invincible or has some type of mechanic going on or whatever, but that has uses. Like, for an example, fighting Ultimate Paladin Roy. Ultimate Paladin Roy froze him. It doesn't matter. He's still getting hit with the entire super art damage. And by the time Veldora gets unfrozen, he could probably go right back into another super art or utilize one of his other moves. He also has a passive, which is similar to that of like FM Haruto and Luvia and Rin, where when he's near death, he will heal all allies HP by 100% and all allies art gauge gets increased by 100. Really good whenever a boss has like a massive nuke or something like that. This can just give you a bit more sustain to withstand whatever the boss is throwing at you. He has the same damage up ratio passive that characters like Delta has. He's one of the first ascended dragon character, and as I mentioned before, bro, ascended dragons I feel like are gonna be a thing. Eventually we're gonna get to the point to where we have a dragon lineup. And then last but not least is the girl Shizu. Now Shizu is a character that's all about buffing up magic damage, reducing the enemy's fire res, and if the enemy is burning, she's gonna then reduce the fire res furthermore. My problem with Shizu though is that when you are encountering a stage in the end game, which is 9 times out of 10, they are immune to burning or pretty much any kind of status procs. And when that happens, she's pretty much shut down from being at her max potential. It's just weird to me because this character is able to give a massive amount of fire res down, but then you think of other units coming out in the game or other units that we have on JP, like Lark for an example, that gives massive amounts of fire res down as well, but he just has to make sure that he himself is unafflicted by a status element, and if he's unafflicted by a status element, well, ladies and gentlemen, he's instantly hitting the boss with a 260% fire res down. It's not as much as Shizu's 320%, but it is a lot more practical. So as you can see, there are so many good units coming and so much value for pretty much all levels of play. Whether you just started playing, you've been playing for the last 5 years or whatever, Tensura offers quite a bit of stuff. And we didn't even touch the equipment, ladies and gentlemen. There's quite a few banger equips from this crossover as well. So is Tensura worth it? Absolutely. Is it worth pitying some of these characters? Maybe, but that's more so up to you. If you are someone who's been waiting to come back to GS for a while and you're like, is this the time to come back? I would say absolutely. When Tensura hits, there's going to be so much stuff that you can get. Same thing if you're brand new. If you've been waiting for a really good starting point, this will be one of the best times in the entire game. And if you've been playing the game and been an extremely active player, well, we're going to have a lot of stuff to go through, especially with all these units, all these new characters. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you can mess around with. Now we just have to get them, which is the hard part. That's going to be it for this one, though. Thank you all for hanging out. Tell me down below what you all think about this crossover. Are you excited for anybody? Are you going to be pitying anyone? Is there anybody that you hope that you can get or that you know that you're going to pity? Me, myself, I'm going for Veldora, and if I can get Demon Lord Rimuru along the way, hey, I'm going to be happy. If you enjoyed this video, though, and you want to know some of the other stuff coming out within this anniversary, click on this video here, and I'll meet you over there. But hey, before you do, don't forget to drink water.